because that would be anti to what I'm just going to talk about here in a moment. But this is how we do it. I'm not saying it's the only way, the perfect way. This is how we do it. But I have to start out this way. I talk about the unholy Trinity. First of all, this is a principle. The unholy Trinity. And that is me, myself, and I. Versus using we, us, and our. And so in the early days of the 70s, people that I were around, they were all, what's my ministry and what's my calling? And one day I got set free, Ephesians 1, I pray that the eyes of your heart may be enlightened so that you may know what is the hope of His calling. And from that time on, I purposed that I just want to fit into His call and do my part that He's asking me to do in His call and His ministry. And I quit using the terms my ministry or my church or my anything. It was just we, us, and our. And we're about this thing. So immature so-called collaboration is everyone help me do my ministry. Let's get together to do my ministry. It was very blatant one day when I got a phone call. Charles, I would like you to arrange for me to speak at the monthly luncheon so that the pastors in the community can help me do my ministry. Just right out there, you know, but sometimes that creeps into us. So when we're talking about prayer, care, share, city reaching, collaboration, it can't be the unholy Trinity. It's got to be we, us, and our. And Peter exemplifies this for me. There's two words that just explode what it means to be we, us, and our, which is all about prayer, care, share, and working together. And that is the difference in the book of Acts. When God visits the people and there's criticism, they're drunk, and Peter says, these men. No I, always before I. Now it's defending someone else. These men. If we're going to do city reaching, it's got to be about helping other people fulfill what God has called them to do. And so I want to encourage you that the whole church, taking the whole gospel to the whole world, is in the Lausanne Covenant. And if you did not know that, it's in point 6, the church and evangelism, and you're trying to do city reaching, then I want to encourage you and exhort you to read the Lausanne Covenant. Because I've been to some meetings, in national meetings like this, where we talked about, the discussion was not using those terms, the whole church taking the whole gospel to the whole city, but it's in the Lausanne Covenant. Vision leaks even from us. So when I read about the Prayer, Care, Share initiative, loving our communities to Christ, I jumped on it. I filled out the application because to me that's we, us, and our. And you see, again, I fell into this in about 1978 where God spoke to me to do something. We put it in the bulletin, called the meeting, and 6 people showed up to help, and I was really ticked off because everybody should be doing this. And I learned that valuable lesson. It's not me, mine, you know. It's we, us, and our. And whatever God's called us to do fits into the fabric of God. So it's not about prayer people with a burden for prayer, acknowledging that care people exist and share people exist, but city reaching is prayer. It's not about care and compassion-oriented and random acts of kindness people, saying city reaching is that, and acknowledging that prayer is there and share is there. And it's not about those that want to get out and do proclamation evangelism, saying this is city reaching, and acknowledging that care people are important and prayer people are kind of important, you know. And it's prayer, care, share. Together. The whole church. The care components, those that have the free clinics, those that are working on AIDS, those that are doing lunch, but the care people, how do they fit in? And how do we pray for them? And how do we connect those people? And the share people. We have our saying, we've adjusted it just a little bit. And when I went to New York City, it exploded to me when we had all these affinity sessions. And I started making a wheel. And here it is. We still have the wheel. This wheel, there are 22 affinity groups. How do we bring the children education people together? the teen ministries together, the men's ministries, the women's ministries. When we got the children's ministry people together, they had a ball with like-minded people who understood each other. How do we pray for each other? How do we care for each other? And how do we share resources with each other? And then together, how do we pray for those unchurched? How do we care for them? And how do we share the message of Christ through our particular affinity? And how does our particular affinity fit into the whole picture? And how do we submit this to a leadership team in a community? So in the area of prayer, for instance, our prayer leaders meet for a business session 4 times a year. Optionally, the other 8, those prayer leaders come together, and it's an hour and a half of no talking, but prayer. No talking, and I'm serious. We just start, here's this topic, and we start praying. And then and we start praying. And I should say about an hour and 45 minutes, or sometimes 2. And they don't want to miss that time of prayer. On day 38 of Seek God for the City, if you want to think global-minded with your group, get them involved and seek God for the city. This is our 3rd year really emphasizing it. But at the bottom of each page, by the time you're through, you've prayed for all 40 nations in the world. Globally minded. You prayed for 40 different subsets of people in your community that you don't normally think about. And then how do you care for these people? When you start making people aware of what's going on. April 22nd, Good Friday, we're going to pray. Thank you. We're going to pray Easter week, the events of Easter week, a Good Friday prayer breakfast. And so, we have 35 congregations, 12 nonprofits. And we take this matter of emphasizing prayer 1 year, still doing care, still doing share. Then we're going to highlight care, still do share, still do prayer. We're going to highlight share, still do prayer, still do care. At our festival in 2009, we had 20,000 people by the end of the day had been there. We had a care tent with 53 different organizations. Some were the Area Substance Abuse Council, etc. The dental people from the county had 5 chairs, busy all the time. We had 4,000 people go through the tent. It was a prayer time, and a care time, and a share time. The prayer leaders mobilized their groups, and we had 24/7 prayer from Thursday through Sunday. So, because we had done things together before, when a disaster hit our community, we were able to respond because we had relationships. Thank you. I'm going to go over 30 seconds. And I was walking down the hallway where we were stationed in the school one day, about the 5th, 6th day, and I saw a young man walking away from me, and on the back of his t-shirt it said, "Championships are won in the off season." And I realized, I started to cry. Because we would not have been able to serve the people, the 201,000 people of Lynn County, and no one died, if we hadn't done the prayer, care, share together for 4 years prior to that. Because championships are won in the off season. And I purposed in my heart at that point, if in the physical no one could be lost, the promises of God are still there, just like we heard this morning. Why cannot we work together so that not one single person will die and go to hell from Lynn County, Iowa? The New Covenant Bible, one of the pillars of our group, the elders, the deacons, the ministry leaders can all tell you what prayer, care, share is all about. And as a result of that being part of the culture of their congregation, there isn't a Sunday goes by for 5 years that there isn't a white rose or 2 or 3 in a vase up front. And every single person in the congregation knows, without a word being said, somebody came to Christ that week. Because the focal point of that congregation is we're not here for us. We're here to reach the lost. Vision leaks. Phil told me 3 years ago, you got to get a monthly news.